This is for you, the one who's genuinely on a quest, who's not just hearing but feeling with your soul. You get to a point on your path where another book, another motivational talk, or one more piece of advice just feels empty. You start to sense that the real answers aren't out there. They are humming quietly inside you, waiting for you to get still, waiting for you to stop justifying, stop explaining, and simply start becoming. But here's the rule, a powerful one you've probably felt without ever putting a name to it. The second you discover something fundamental about yourself, a piece of truth that recalibrates how you view everything, you get this massive impulse to share it, to tell everyone, to get it out. That's perfectly normal. It's the mind seeking applause for its achievement. But a deeper wisdom offers a different path. Protect what you've found. Not because your truth is anything to be ashamed of, and certainly not because it's a secret to be kept forever, but because certain insights lose their potency if they're exposed to the air too soon. Some truths are like photographs developing in a dark room. You don't rip them out into the bright light just to prove the image is appearing. You let them develop fully. You shield them from outside influence. You give them the stillness they need to become clear and sharp. What nobody tells you is that this need to talk right away is rooted in the ego. We broadcast because we want recognition. We want to be acknowledged for the pearl we've found. But clarity doesn't grow in the soil of external validation. It solidifies in the quiet, in the self-testing, in living your newfound understanding, not just performing it. There's an ache that comes with this kind of awakening, because you begin to see the game while everyone else is still playing. You will carry yourself differently. Your vision will no longer be captured by the superficial things it once chased. The constant chatter of the world will start to exhaust you. You will spiritually outgrow spaces you once desperately wanted to belong to, and within this transformation, there will be an intense loneliness, the kind that creates a desperate urge for self-expression, tempting you to justify your shift, to prove to others you haven't gone crazy, you've just become clearer. But silence is your most potent mentor here. In that stillness, you are no longer trying to persuade anyone of anything, you are busy living the very reality you discovered. The power of your evolution isn't measured by how many people know about it, it's measured by how deeply it's fused into your being. Hold your tongue, not because people aren't good enough, but because what is truly sacred requires a sanctuary. A time will come when you look back and see how cheaply words are spent, how we constantly give away our inner fire by trying to articulate what we should be busy mastering. You will see that not everyone has earned a ticket to your inner world, not because they're bad people, but because they simply aren't at that stage of the journey. Some are still on paths you have long since left, and if you try to give them the equipment for your deep sea dive, they'll just laugh at your descent. They haven't experienced the pressure that required it yet, and it is not your mission to verbally pull them to a new depth. You're not on this planet to win debates. You're here to evolve, and authentic evolution is nearly always silent. It unfolds in those private moments where you pick discipline when desire calls, where you turn away from drama instead of fueling it, where you sit with your own discomfort instead of distracting yourself from it. These are the choices that forge an unbreakable core, not the times you talk, but the times you act. So, the next time you feel that internal click, that aha moment surging, that piece of insight burning to be spoken, just pause. Ask your soul, is this for them to hear now, or is this for me to embody first? More often than not, it's the latter. You owe yourself the gift of that private integration. Allow the secret to transform you completely before you even think about letting it transform others. Because when your growth is undeniable, when it's genuinely a part of you, you won't have to put it into words. Your very presence will communicate it. Your composure, your choices, your quiet certainty, they will resonate far more powerfully than any speech you could ever make. This is how you develop real magnetism. This is how you become centered. You stop letting your progress leak out. You quit narrating your evolution like a story you're trying to sell, and you start living it as if it's already a done deal. Know the secret, and once you know it, protect it fiercely. There's a quiet law of physics in the universe that is rarely discussed because it can't be theorized, it can only be experienced. That law states, when you verbalize a profound insight too early, it tends to evaporate, not because the insight is weak, but because your grip on it is still new. When you first connect with a powerful truth, it feels like an electric current. It zaps through your consciousness. Suddenly, the whole puzzle makes sense. The suffering, the struggle, the static, all of it snaps into a coherent pattern. In that flash, the desire to share this new map with the world is overwhelming. But this is the lesson that isn't taught in schools. Not all discoveries are meant for immediate broadcast. Truth is like molten steel. If your hands haven't been conditioned to handle the heat, you will only burn yourself and anyone you try to share it with. The initial spark of realization is never the final form, it is just the start of a much deeper embodiment. Speaking about your insight prematurely is like trying to carry water in your hands. It seeps through your fingers. It's lost. Your words don't just carry meaning, they carry your vital energy. When you speak about truths you have not yet fully lived into, it's like painting a portrait of a person you've only met once. The proportions will be slightly off, the colors won't be quite right, and the result won't capture the essence. The discipline of staying quiet after a revelation isn't about self-deprivation, it is an act of fierce protection. It's protection for you, to allow your mind, body, and spirit to sync up with this new operating system. It's protection for the insight itself, giving it the time it needs to anchor into your behavior, your reflexes, and your very character. Because until your everyday actions reflect this new clarity, it's not yet real. It's just a beautiful idea, and ideas are fragile. They are not only influenced by our own conviction, but also by how the world reacts to them. When you share a deep realization with someone unprepared to hear it, you might feel like you're being generous. But what you are actually doing is putting your own fragile growth on trial. You're giving something sacred to a person who can't perceive its value. They'll question it, belittle it, or ignore it. If you're not yet solid in your conviction, their dismissal can make you doubt yourself and undo what was a moment of perfect knowing. In this sense, the ego can disguise itself as a savior. I have to share this with everyone, it screams. But true masters don't hurry to give a lecture, they let their very existence become the curriculum first. True mastery is not self-promoting. A fruit tree doesn't shout when its apples are ripe, it just stands there, quietly, solidly, and generously. Anyone who truly needs its fruit will eventually find their way to it. In exactly the same way, your own development will become evident over time by the way you navigate challenges, the way you listen to others, and the way you act with integrity without needing an audience. And that presence will communicate more than any explanation possibly could. It is critical to grasp that some people subconsciously rely on your instability to feel secure in their own stagnation. If you articulate your new level of consciousness to those deeply invested in staying the same, they will actively try to discredit you, not always from a place of malice, but from a place of fear. Your growth is a mirror to their own inertia. Your clarity makes them uncomfortable with their own confusion. So they'll poke holes in your new belief, not because it's wrong, but because they are terrified that it might be right. And if your roots in this new truth aren't deep enough yet, you will be shaken. This is precisely why silence is your first and most crucial ally, not forever, but just for long enough for that truth to solidify into unwavering strength. Only speak about it once your words no longer require someone else's agreement. Only share it when your inner knowing cannot be dented by someone else's rejection. That's the point where you're no longer attempting to convince anyone, you are simply revealing what you have become. And there's one more layer. When you deliberately hold back from speaking your insights, you give them space to marinate inside you. They start to reshape your habits in subtle ways. How you start your day, how you engage in conversation, how you detach from things that drain you. These are the real markers of transformation. They aren't loud, they don't demand a stage, but they are absolutely undeniable. The people around you will sense it. Even without the words, they will register a change, a new weight, a solid presence. That is the vibration of someone who has found something truly powerful and has held it close long enough to merge with it. So the next time you feel a profound truth click into place, fight that reflex to articulate it. Let your stillness be its cradle, let your silence be its guardian, let your actions become its expression, and eventually when that seed has become an unshakable tree, you will realize you don't need to say a word. People will be drawn to you not for your opinions, but for your way of being. And when you finally do speak, they will lean in, not because you are loud, but because your quiet power has already captured their respect. That is real authority. That is understanding what to know and, more importantly, when to say absolutely nothing. There is a difficult but vital truth about life that very few are ready to hear. Not everyone is equipped for your discovery. Not every mind has the framework for what you now comprehend, and not every heart is strong enough to hold the weight of what your soul has learned. When a profound insight dawns on you, it feels like an incredible gift, but the critical mistake we make is in thinking it will be seen as a gift by everyone else. It will not, especially by those who did not ask for it, and especially by those who are still deeply invested in the very illusions that insight helped you escape. The essence of any deep truth is its disruptiveness. It shatters comfort zones and illuminates shadowy corners many people want to keep unlit. It demands growth, but growth is inherently uncomfortable. So when you present truth to people who aren't seeking it, it won't be welcomed with open arms. It will be resisted, pushed back, and sometimes even demonized. Picture walking into a dark cave where people have lived for years. Their vision has adapted to the pitch black. Their entire sense of safety is tied to the darkness. And then you, with your eyes wide open from the world outside, switch on a powerful flashlight. You assume you're helping them. You think you're bestowing your new light upon them. But to them, you are a menace. Not because your light is false, but because it violently shatters the familiar world they've built for themselves. In this life, timing is non-negotiable. The right message at the wrong moment is just as damaging as a lie. This is why wisdom always comes paired with patience. When you grasp something transformative, your duty isn't to go on a crusade to convert the masses. Your primary job is to integrate that truth into yourself, to live it out. Let your own life be the demonstration of what you know, because if a person isn't searching for change on their own terms, your words will just sound like judgment or static. This becomes acutely painful when the people you love most are the ones still in the cave. You desperately want them to awaken. You yearn for them to evolve with you. You wish they could see the world through your new lens. But evolution can never be imposed. It has to be a choice. It's a path that must be walked, not a destination you can be airlifted to. A butterfly can't lecture a caterpillar into metamorphosis. It can only set an example by flying. Sharing profound insights with the wrong audience is like trying to grow a garden on a concrete slab. The seed's potential is irrelevant if it has no soil to grow in. If you keep trying to force it, you'll only deplete yourself and end up feeling profoundly misunderstood, ignored, or even attacked. That ache you feel isn't because your truth was flawed, it's because you completely misread the receptivity of your audience. There is also a quiet arrogance in thinking that it's your responsibility to awaken other people. It is not. Awakening is a deeply personal journey. Regardless of how eloquently you speak or how pure your insight is, it can't take root where there is no openness. You might want to grab people by the shoulders and tell them how much better things could be. But until they are prepared to listen with their spirit and not just their ears, your words will either go unnoticed or worse, be twisted, ridiculed, and used as a weapon against you. This is why stillness becomes wisdom's greatest shield. When you choose silence, you are not disrespecting the truth, you are honoring its sanctity. You are declaring, this is precious. This is not for entertainment. This is not for a casual debate. This is a key that opens new worlds, and I will not offer it to someone who insists on staying in a locked room. Let your example be the quiet call. Let the way you conduct your life spark their curiosity. Let your inner peace disturb their inner chaos, not through sermons but through your mere existence. People don't follow words, they follow a vibration. If you have genuinely embodied a powerful truth, it will alter your posture, your decisions, and your priorities. People will sense it. They might not acknowledge it right away, but when the moment is right for them, when they are finally prepared, they will come and ask. And when someone asks with genuine openness, that is when the door is ready for the key. This is how true transformation spreads, not by force, but by resonance. You live your truth so completely and so quietly that it begins to radiate from you. It develops a magnetic pull. Those who are ready to rise will feel that pull, and they will approach you not to challenge or debate, but to learn. Until that day, guard your treasure. Keep it in the silent chambers of your heart. Let it grow inside you long before you ever mention it. The world may not be ready for it, but you have to be. Because if you try to convince others before you yourself are completely grounded in it, you risk getting dragged back into the very consciousness you fought so hard to escape. And that is the unspoken peril of sharing your truth too soon. Your insight may be genuine, but if it is still young, the wrong atmosphere can suffocate it. So hold it tight. Let your quiet build your resilience, and trust that when they're truly ready, they will finally be able to hear you. Until then, walk your path in peace. There is a world of difference between being strong and being powerful. Strength is having the ability to act. Power is having the wisdom to refrain. This is a point of mastery that most people miss. They equate power with being loud, with dominating a space, or with asserting control. But true power, the kind that silently redirects lives and reshapes realities, is quiet, it's poised. It doesn't need to be validated. It doesn't make a grand entrance when it walks into a room. It doesn't have to, because it has nothing to prove. When you encounter a person who has genuinely walked through the fire, looked their demons in the eye, wrestled with their own shadow, and come out the other side wiser, you will notice something profound but subtle about them. They are in no rush to prove a point. They listen far more than they speak. Their very presence has a certain gravity, not because they force it on you, but because they've earned it through inner work. That is restraint, and restraint is the signature of someone who possesses great power but has chosen to be its master. We exist in a culture where everyone is screaming to be noticed, heard, and validated. Social media feeds, daily conversations, even our intimate relationships have turned into platforms for performance art. Everyone is talking, yet almost no one is truly present. Everyone is broadcasting, but so much of what's shared is shallow and performative. It's an ocean of noise, and within that chaos, the people who hold authentic power are the quiet ones. The ones who know that some truths are too sacred for casual consumption, that deep insight is not an award to be polished and shown off. It's an internal flame that must be shielded. You have to understand that restraint is not a synonym for weakness or passivity. It means you have disciplined yourself to override the knee-jerk impulse to react, to argue, to correct, or to control a narrative. It means you can sit with calm integrity when you are being challenged. It means you can let someone else be incorrect without needing to jump in and fix it just to gratify your own ego. That is not being a coward, that is having absolute clarity. Because the second you feel that compulsion to prove you are right, you have handed your sense of worth over to someone else. And that is not power, it's just insecurity wearing a confident disguise. There's a rigorous discipline in keeping your truth to yourself, in not requiring external approval to feel its reality. Some discoveries are meant to be embodied, not just announced. When you realize something genuinely life-altering about yourself or the world, your immediate instinct might be to publicize it. But wisdom isn't a one-time show, it's a daily practice. It must first be fully digested, integrated, and made real through how you conduct yourself. Think of a true master of a martial art. The most formidable practitioners are not the ones bragging about their rank, they are the ones who appear utterly calm, centered, almost ordinary. Why? Because they don't have to perform what they know, it has become part of their nervous system. Their restraint is not an effort, it's second nature. It's the product of immense discipline, endless repetition, and humbling defeats. They have realized that power isn't about what you can display, it's about what you choose to hold back. And this exact principle applies to your inner journey. The more you know your own soul, the less you need the outside world to acknowledge you. The more profound your clarity, the less you'll feel driven to argue about it. You stop needing to win arguments. You stop caring about applause. You allow others to underestimate you, to misunderstand you, or even to ridicule you because you have learned that your reality doesn't need their vote to be valid. That is authentic power, quiet, anchored, and absolute. But this restraint doesn't just shield your power, it intensifies it. Every time you choose stillness when it would be easier to lash out, every time you pick presence over a performance, you are sharpening your inner sword. You become more coherent, more focused, more impactful. Instead of spraying your energy everywhere trying to convince others, you redirect it inward to fortify yourself. And with every conscious act of holding back, your awareness gets sharper. You start to see with piercing clarity who is worthy of your energy and who is not, who is receptive and who isn't, what is real and what is just an illusion. This clarity becomes your internal navigation system. It dictates your actions, not your emotions. Because you are no longer just reacting, you are responding from a place of deep intention. That is the moment of real transformation, when your life is no longer a knee-jerk reaction to the outside world, but a deliberate expression of your deepest truth. In the old wisdom traditions, restraint was always seen as the hallmark of inner maturity. It signaled that you had reached a point where your internal peace was not for sale, where you refused to let external events or other people knock you off your center. And the most magnetic thing about that state is this: people can feel it. They might not be able to articulate it. It might even make them uncomfortable, but they can feel it. And bit by bit, they will start to relate to you differently, not because you demanded their respect, but because your composure made them curious, made them question what you have that they are missing. And when they finally, genuinely ask, you'll know they are ready. You won't have to persuade them of anything. You'll just speak, and your words will land with incredible force because you waited, because you honored the truth enough to guard it, and because you didn't drain your power trying to show it off before it's time. That is the essence of walking with quiet power. That is knowing the secret and being strong enough to keep it. A moment arrives on every true path of growth where the most powerful move you can make is to say nothing at all. Not because you lack something to say, but because you have finally understood that silence itself is a profound language. When used with intention, it communicates more powerfully than any rebuttal, any justification, or any defense ever could. Silence is not a void of power, it is the presence of deep mastery. In the first stages of self-discovery, we are often desperate to explain ourselves. We want to unload everything we've figured out, everything we've experienced, everything we now understand. We are like a cup filled to the brim, spilling over onto anyone nearby. But as you mature, you begin to notice that not everyone is capable of listening with the same depth. Not everyone is ready to hold the insights you worked so hard to attain. And more critically, you realize that not every environment is worthy of your energy. It is then that silence transforms into a strategic choice, one born not from insecurity or defeat, but from sharp clarity and discernment. In your own silence, you finally uncover your real motives. Are you talking because you crave approval, because you have a need to be seen as correct, because your ego is demanding a stage, or are you strong enough to remain quiet, to protect your inner state, to allow others the space to be wrong without it disrupting your own peace? Silence forces you to confront yourself more honestly than speaking ever can, because once you strip away the noise of trying to explain and persuade, the only thing left is the truth. The raw, unvarnished truth about yourself, and meeting that truth without the buffer of words is where your most significant growth will occur. There is an ancient power in stillness. The world around you rushes, yells, reacts, posts, and performs, but you simply don't. You observe, you sense, you understand. You learn to perceive the real meaning behind the curtain of words. You start listening not only to what is spoken, but to what is being deliberately left unsaid. You see the motivations, the masks, and the hidden agendas that fly over most people's heads. In stillness, your perception becomes razor sharp. You grow more attuned to energy, to tiny shifts in a person's voice, to the emotional weight in the pauses between their sentences. This is not some magical intuition. It's a highly trained awareness, and it is forged in the discipline of silence. Think about the most elite athletes. Their true strength isn't just in their physical ability, but in their capacity to watch their opponent, to wait for that perfect, split-second opening to act. They are composed, grounded, and silent, and when they do make a move, it's not from panic, it's from absolute readiness. This same principle is a blueprint for life. When you have mastered the art of being silent, you no longer talk just to fill a void. You speak only when you have something of real value to contribute. And your decision to stay quiet becomes a deliberate act of immense power, not an admission of weakness. In your relationships, quiet presence can be more healing than any confrontation. Sometimes, the people you care about don't need your solutions, they just need your undivided presence. Sometimes they don't need to hear your perspective, they need a quiet space to hear their own. When you stop crowding their inner process with your words, you give them the dignity of space to think, to feel, and to evolve. That kind of intentional silence is a profound act of love, not neglect. It communicates that you have faith in them to navigate their own path, just as you once did. And when it comes to your own suffering, your own pain, silence can become a sacred refuge. You do not need to advertise your struggle for it to be valid. You do not need to narrate your healing journey for it to be authentic. Some of the most profound healing unfolds in the quiet, when you sit with yourself in stillness, free from distractions and opinions, and just allow yourself to be, to feel, and to integrate. That is the workshop of transformation. In silence, your fragmented pieces start to find their way back to each other, not because you willed them to, but because you finally gave them the quiet space they needed to realign. Silence is also a shield for your vision. The more you talk about your big dreams, your detailed plans, and your audacious goals, the more you expose them to the corrosive effects of doubt, jealousy, and interference from others. There is tremendous power in moving quietly, in building your empire without announcing it, in evolving without needing to give progress reports. Let your results create the conversation. Let your inner peace be the ultimate testimony. When you treat your ambitions as sacred, they gather strength. They become deeply rooted. They are no longer dependent on applause for fuel but are powered by your own unshakable purpose. And finally, silence is what teaches you patience. The world will constantly try to provoke a reaction from you. People will push your buttons. Life will present you with challenges that seem to scream for an immediate response. But in your quiet, you learn to wait, to observe, and to respond from a place of solid strength, not fleeting emotion. This doesn't mean you become a mute. It means you speak with precision, with clarity, and with real impact. Your words, when you finally release them, will have immense weight because they have been forged in the furnace of silence. This is the secret so many miss. They believe power has to be loud, that wisdom requires a lengthy explanation, and that truth must be shouted to have an impact. But those who have truly found it know the opposite. They know silence is not a vacuum, it is a plenum. It is the container for your strength, your depth, and your insight. It is your ultimate boundary, your constant meditation, your silent statement, and your fiercest guardian. So once you know something to your core, not just in your head, but in your spirit, your heart, and your bones, resist that common urge to proclaim it. Instead, let it live inside you. Let it shape your choices. Let it remold your habits, because the world does not need more empty noise. It needs more people who have the profound courage to stay silent until their true moment arrives. And when it does, they will speak not to be impressive, but to be illuminating. Until then, allow silence to be your greatest teacher. The journey to real wisdom isn't paved with a lot of talking. It's carved out in stillness, forged in restraint, and often walked alone. Once you have truly grasped this, once you have seen firsthand the incredible transformative force that silence holds, you no longer have a need to convince anyone of who you have become. You stop chasing the external approval that once felt so critical. You stop engaging in conflicts that your soul has already moved beyond. You simply are, and that becoming, it happens in the unseen, quiet moments, in the pre-dawn hours when the world is still, and it's just you and your breath, in the late hours when you reflect on the choices of your day, not with self-judgment but with a desire to refine your course. It happens in your quiet poise, in your patience, in the way you deliberately choose to respond rather than react. It happens in the comments you decide not to make, the wins you don't need to broadcast, and the pain you don't feel compelled to narrate. There is a deeply compelling quality to a person who no longer needs to be loud. That type of power is absolute. It is solid. It doesn't rise and fall with praise or criticism. It is not contingent on being understood or even seen by others. It just is, like a great mountain that is unmoved by a passing storm, like a candle flame that remains steady in a draft. The person who holds a profound truth and chooses silence is not hiding something from others. They are protecting the sanctity of something they have earned. Because that is what truth is. It's earned through lived moments, through pain, through failure, through difficult decisions, and through quiet, dogged perseverance. And the more profound the truth, the less you will want to share it carelessly. Not because it's a secret, but because you have deep respect for it. You understand its weight. You recognize that real wisdom isn't a showpiece. It is an agent of transformation. And before it has a chance to change anyone else, it must first be allowed to fully change you. So you carry it inside you. You let it cool your temper, you let it clarify your focus, you let it starve your ego, and you let it serve as your internal compass that stays true even in the most disorienting of times. You no longer search outside yourself for validation, because you've finally learned to hear the answers in your own inner quiet. And in that quiet, you find a clarity and a peace that is unshakable, the kind of peace that doesn't rely on everything going perfectly, but on your release from the need to control what doesn't. The kind of peace that stays firm even when people misjudge you, question you, or provoke you. You don't engage in the fight because your energy has become precious, your time has become sacred, and your inner state is no longer open for negotiation. You don't give it away so easily anymore. That is when your entire life begins to shift. Not because circumstances change, but because you have, and your transformation, while subtle, is impossible to ignore. You move differently, you speak with more intention. You make choices from a place of deep knowing, not anxious desperation. You invest your energy with great care, and you fiercely protect your silence. You don't allow noise to penetrate your heart. You don't let chaos dictate your direction. You have become still, and in your stillness you are formidable. People will feel this about you long before they can ever explain it. They may not know what draws them to your presence, why your words feel so resonant, or why your quiet calm feels like a safe harbor. Because you have done the one thing most people won't. You have journeyed inward. You have sat in the silence long enough to learn that not everything is meant to be spoken, that not every truth requires a spectator. Some treasures are meant only for you. So when the world tries to pull you back into its noisy drama, when it dangles the bait of applause, of arguments, or of being recognized, remember this: you are not here to make a splash. You are here to be clear, to be anchored, to be real. And often, the most real thing you can possibly do is say nothing at all. Let your life become the evidence of what you know. Let your actions be the echo of the lessons you have absorbed. Let your quiet presence teach more powerfully than your voice ever could. That is how you command respect without demanding it. That is how you create influence without needing to use force. That is how you protect your inner power and continue to grow without being disturbed. Because once you've truly found the secret, once you've tasted that rare clarity that can't be purchased, damaged, or borrowed, you will understand exactly why it must be guarded. Not from the world, but for yourself, so it can continue to guide you, so it can continue to refine you, and so it can continue its quiet, profound work within you. In a society obsessed with talking, choose the discipline of listening. In a culture addicted to distraction, choose the courage of stillness. And in a world desperate to be seen, choose the quiet path of becoming so powerful that they feel you even when you're saying nothing. That's when you'll finally know the secret was never about shouting it, it was about living it, silently and completely.